So I have three separate images here that will go through retouching, compositing, highlighting a few different lighting techniques in order to help create a more cinematic style to your photos. So this first portrait here, I'm going to start with the finished retouched image, and then I will break it down from there. So this is the original photo straight out of camera. And all right, so now we will actually get started. So this is the original image, and we will break this down. So sorry for the 8-minute delay, but hopefully there will be payoff. So kind of as I was saying from the start, this is the original base image. I have a light to camera right here that you can see. If I zoom in, you can see the catch light there. However, in my head, I imagined a more dramatic cinematic image, and the clouds that day really didn't match that. So this is where compositing comes into play. So I masked out this background here and replaced it with this image. So if I show just the one second. Okay, so I took this from this is the original image of the clouds. And so when I reveal that, we have started to set the scene here. So a couple things I did. His face was a little brighter than what I wanted. So I used a technique called burning, where I took this point here, and you can see his face lightening and darkening. As I pull the point up, it gets brighter. This is a curves adjustment. As I pull the point down, it gets darker. So this is what it was before. It was a little bright for my taste to sit in with the rest of the scene. So I burned that down just a little bit. Same thing with the debris and rubble here. It was a little brighter than what I wanted. So I applied the same technique where you can see here, I pulled this up here considerably down. And what that does is, as of right now, my eyes are kind of drawn to here. So I want the focus to be on the fireman. So I burned that down. It's a little bit darker. And then overall, with this general area, I still felt it needed to be a little bit darker because I really wanted something dramatic and moody. So I burned that down even some more. You can see same thing. I made another curves adjustment. If I raise it, it's pulling up those shadows. And if I lower it, it's darkening them down. And one further step of darkening, because it's still in these particular areas, was still drawing my attention a little bit too much. So I made yet another curve adjustment. And I should say with stuff like this, there are no rules. It's simply taking what's in your mind's eye and trying to help bring it into fruition. And I could go more, I could go less. It's simply a matter of taste. All right. So now that this is where we are up to the point before I had the clouds. So I masked out this particular area using the quick selection tool. And then dropped in the sky. And so for the sky, if I wanted to as well, you can move it around. If you weren't happy with this set of clouds, you could shift that just to your liking. And so now what I have to do is match the color of the clouds to the foreground. So what I did here was you look down here, take a click color balance, and then from here you can go into your shadows, midtones, and highlights. And with each of these sliders, I'll start with shadows. You can see then the clouds when I turn it on. Step 1, turn it on. You can see how it's adjusting the shadow area of the clouds. So this is without. It was a little too blue for my taste, so you can see here in the shadows, I pulled it more towards the yellows. So what I'm trying to do here is balance it out to where there's no, to make more continuity between the background that we've composited into the foreground with the firefighter in there. So now I wanted to, after I blended that in, I want to take the overall color and make adjustments with that. So if you look at a lot of movies and other color grading techniques, they very commonly will push the highlights and shadows into different tonal directions. So what I did here is come down here to the wheel and then click selective color. And what this does is it allows you to go into each of these color ranges and then affect the color within that tonal bracket. So you can see here, I went to the blacks first, and then if I wanted to make it more cool, I could do that. So it's injecting color into those shadow areas, the black areas. Same thing, magenta. And with cyan. So kind of what I was saying earlier, a lot of this is simply off of intuition, your feel, like what are your tastes. There's no right or wrong. It's simply what your style dictates. Same thing here with the neutrals. I pushed this one more towards cyan. And so to bring a little more cohesion to the image, I did a channel mixer layer, which is a way to create more contrast into the image. So if I increase it to 100, it's way too overcooked. So right here you have your different layers, so you can go from normal, all these different options, and if you hover over them, you can see how it's changing your image. So I chose soft light here. So this is with the opacity down to 0. This is cranked. And this is another one of those things, it's kind of seasoned to taste. So around 20% is what looked good to me. And then this final layer here, what I did was I took all these layers and then made a new layer from that. And then one of the things you can do for like a final polish, you can go up here to filter and then go to camera raw filter. So from here you can make some macro and micro adjustments if you want to. If you're still saying, oh, it's a little too bright, you can take the exposure down. Let's say you want more contrast, well, you could go up to contrast, up that. You could bring the highlights down. This just gives you a lot more options within a single window. So from here, I went down here for more additional color grading. So if you're taking your shadows here, this is the extreme for each color one. So you see the saturation is cranked all the way. Let's say I wanted a more blue type of image. I find what I like to do is find the tone first, the darkest tone for the color that I want to inject upon the image, and then pull it back. So let's say I wanted a more cooler type of image, well, I can do it like that. Same thing with midtones. It's affecting just the midtones of the image. Say you want it kind of a little yellowish green in there, in the midtones, you could do that. Same kind of thing, saturation all the way down, all the way up. You can see how it's making the adjustments. Same thing with highlights. So, okay, let's say I like this color value overall. I simply pull down the saturation until it looks good to my eye. I usually go to where it looks just right, and then I back off just a little bit. So let's say you're happy with that. You can come down here. Maybe you want some more vignetting. You could do that. If you want to add some sharpening, you can do that here. I'm going to discard those because that was just simply for an example. So here is the final image. So we take all these, Command G will group them in a layer, and you can see this is before, this is after.
Hey, Matthew.
Yes.
I just got a ping that it's not showing the adjustment menus. Is there a chance you could share your full screen instead of just Photoshop?
Let's see.
Is there another window opening up when you're adjusting these?
No. Let me see. Let me try and make the window a little smaller. Let's see if we can do that. Then a lot of that probably didn't make much sense. Can you see my adjustments now?
Yes. I can see the layers. I can see properties, and then color gradient wheel.
So can you see all the stuff below where it's got group 1, layer 1, channel mixer, overall color?
Yes.
Like, can you see where I just turned everything off and then turned it back on?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, that should be good then. All right, so that's the first image. This next image is a family portrait. So this involves a couple of different techniques. This is a composite, and it's a composite in the sense that I have the camera set up on a tripod, but anyone who's ever dealt with, trying to shoot kids, that sounds terrible, trying to photograph kids or dogs or anything like that knows that they're the most difficult people and or things to photograph. It is impossible. So I set my camera on a tripod right about here, and I had directly behind camera, I had a light with a blue gel bouncing off the white wall to kind of give the feel of the blue from the TV. And then right above camera here, I had a large softbox. So if we zoom into the eyes, you can see here's the softbox overhead and the blue bouncing off of the wall. And that's what everyone wants to see is a close-up of the presenter. We're going to back out of there. Okay, so this is the base image that I have here. So it's not terrible. Obviously, we're missing one of the dogs, but this is a good start. So this is the main. We're going to call this our hero plate that we're shooting from. So this is our base image. So the next thing I wanted to do was I took maybe 50, 60 different frames, and after the fact, I can pick them as long as the camera's not moving, which is why it's on a tripod. Then I can simply erase or paint in different aspects. So the first thing I did was change for our dog cam and myself to this. So what you're doing here, here's a mask. And what you're doing essentially is, if you push B, that pulls up the brush tool. And what I just did is I just erased what was below to the mask to show what was below. So this is what we had initially. And then if I'm painting black, it's hiding it. So it's pulling up what was underneath, which is the original base image here. And so I'm just simply revealing with a white brush. So for instance, if I kept painting here, part of the rest of this layer is starting to show through, which is why you see on my son here, Max, how he's changed from that to that. So it can definitely take a little bit of time to come in here and paint this just to make sure that it's nice and clean. But anything worth doing is worth doing right. So sometimes it's going to take a little time. So here his hair needed a little bit of cleanup. So I masked that out to bring back a little bit of the headboard. All right. So for the next layer, you can see I changed Maisie. So this is not terrible here, but I wanted her looking back at us. So I brought in another layer from one of the 40 or so photos that I had taken and just overlaid it with that, and everything else stays the same. And then I just repeat the process. So with Abigail, I simply shot her, photographed her when everyone was off the bed, so we'd have plenty of space for her to make sure she stayed there. So I got her up there, told her to stay, called her name to look at camera, and then here we are. So to the untrained or the uninitiated, this went to this, and it looks like I did that in a single frame. So for here, I do a little cleanup. We are not as young as we once were, so sometimes we need a little help. So this is where spot healing tool, clone stamp, healing brush comes into play. And back to more dodging. Same technique where I take a curves layer, which you see here. And this is dodging, so I'm brightening the dark spots from here to around there. All right, so that's one of the layers. Then I move into this light here. I felt like could use a little bit more highlight, so I have another dodge layer, simply bringing that up. And then this layer, I adjusted the color just to warm it up just a little bit on the side. So I was looking at the overall image and it's coming together pretty well. But I noticed that up here it's a little bright for my taste. It was a little distracting. So I made another adjustment layer. And this, I pulled the center tab down to darken it. So it was around here. I wanted to subtly bring it down just to draw attention more towards the center of the photograph. And one last thing that was kind of drawing my attention was my son's legs here were a little bit bright for my taste, so I wanted to darken that just a little bit. And the same thing with Cam right here. So you guessed it, another adjustment layer. Pulled it down. I'm sorry, wrong layer. Pulled it down from here to here. And then I'm taking a brush and simply cutting my flow down. Your flow basically allows you how sensitive your brush is. So if I have it at 100%, it's going to darken it really quickly and to the extreme. If you move it to a more gentle number, hardness all the way down, it will gradually build. Let's say we're at 8%, and you can see it get darker much more gradually. It's a lot more controllable that way. So I darkened his legs down a little from there and the dog to here. So this last layer, here's the final image. If you do something called, it's another camera raw filter, but if you use a smart filter, you can go back and readjust these layers. So if I double click on this, it will pull up the settings that I had for the final bit of post-processing. So you can see here, I adjusted the highlights just to give a little more pop. The shadows were around here. I wanted a little more detail in the shadow, so I pulled that up a touch. Too much, pulled back to about right there. Same thing with the whites. I brought this up just to create a little more attention to the center of the image.
Hey, so this is what he was talking about is
Oh, you can't see this?
whatever popped up, it's not showing up.
Oh, this particular spot?
I would assume so. You're pointing at whites and there's no whites popping up.
Okay. Well, I will cancel out of this because apparently I guess it's in camera raw where you're not seeing. In my normal window, you're seeing so my normal screen, you're seeing everything, correct? Like over to the right?
Yeah, the main Photoshop window is available.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll just steer clear from the camera raw. So I'll do a quick recap. This is the original image built up layer by layer. Little hair cleanup, changed Maisie, the dog position, added Abigail, little cleanup, little dodge, burning down the back wall just a touch, highlights down, and then the final raw camera raw filter. Okay, so are we good on time, Barrett, or do I need to shut down? Barrett?
Oh man, I was on mute that whole time. I tell you what. So we're right at 4:30. So
Yes.
you're welcome to continue on. But if you want to pause for questions so far,
Yes.
people are welcome to hop off and you can continue your presentation as long as you'd like.
Yeah, I'll hop off with them.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no problem.
Kidding. No, I'll stick around for anyone who has any questions, and I can quickly walk through this last image of Big Al if we have time.
Yeah, so let's hop off mute real quick if anyone wants to ask a question, or you can put it in the chat as well, and then we'll press on with Big Al with this pumpkin. All right, go ahead, Matthew.
Okay. If it means you're doing very poorly or people are captivated, I'll let them decide. So I'll make this as quick as possible because of technical difficulties earlier. And I know people will be ready to go home. So this is another composite image. So let me turn all these off. This is the final. So I shot this photo of Big Al separately in the studio. And a big part of all these things, Photoshop is an amazing tool, but it's useless if you don't have an idea or a vision for what you're trying to accomplish. They're simply tools like anything else. You can absolutely butcher something, or you can really take your images to the next level. So we'll start out with the base image here, which is just these are background plates. So a lot of times with compositing, you have to imagine where you see this. So this is a photo of Big Al in the studio. So I knew I wanted to have him with the pumpkin. And a lot of these things I'm using practical lighting. So rather than try and do it in Photoshop, I like for the lighting up of the pumpkin, I took a small little flash, shoved it in the jack-o'-lantern with an orange gel on it to create a warm glow, and as well for not only on the pumpkin but on Big Al as well. So a lot of these things I stress, you want to do as much of it in camera as possible. It's going to make your post-processing much easier and give you just more options and make it more realistic, more believable. So with a lot of these composites, I will have a quick rundown on the lighting. I will have it coming above here and a light on camera right and camera left. You can see the highlights here. And from using this 3-point lighting technique, it really allows you to blend subject into most any environment. It gives you the most universal latitude. So any kind of athletic composites, whether it's football team or basketball or whatever. A lot of times you'll see the highlights on the side of the face or body, and then a light may be overhead or to the side. That's why they're doing that, because it helps blend in into whatever background they're putting the subject in. So I started with let me undo Big Al. So I'll just quickly walk through this. Same kind of thing. The sky was a little bland here, so I reached into my cloud archives and pulled this and masked it in. As of right now, this doesn't look that great. So we're going to do a series of color adjustments and overall tonal shaping of the image to help create a sense of cohesion. So up to this point, we've got the sky replaced, darken this. So for a lot of these images as well with compositing, you'll see one of the techniques used is creating a little haze behind the subject in the environment they're in, and I just call it atmosphere. It helps kind of unify the background with the foreground. And one of the things that helps also sell this lie of Big Al being there is you need shadows. So I have manually, we don't really have time to get into that today, maybe for a future lesson, but I've painted in shadows here using the brush tool, and that helps plant Al in the scene. So a few spots here and here, I needed to darken down a little bit using the same technique of burning. If you're looking here from pulling down, pull up, brightens, pull down, darkens the area that you painted in. So another thing to help sell the fake is if this actually were here and Big Al were there, you're going to need light on the deck here. So I created a new layer, clicked B for the brush, click this, you can option click inside here, and then I picked something like that, and then you just simply brush in. It's not going to allow me to do that right now. But you brush in just subtly to make it look more realistic. So we'll delete this layer. So a little adjustment of the light from the pumpkin. So here's an overall color adjustment. Same thing before, using the selective color tool, adjusting the blacks, neutrals, nothing there, so on and so forth. And another color adjustment. And so for overall contrast, amazing. There we go. So I used some clouds from my archive and simply created a brush from that, and then painted some of those in to help set the mood a little bit more. Added a little yellow fog to help blend that in, pumpkin with the deck a little bit more. Added a touch of flare over Big Al's right shoulder and ear, like the sun was peeking through here. And then a final hammer raw adjustment, again, to create the final polish of the image. So I know I went through that pretty quickly. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but that is the nature of the beast.